Welcome to barbecuecoach.com. Today we're going to be doing tri-tip. I'm actually going to do it 4 different ways. One is grilling, and I'm going to smoke 3 tri-tips at 250 degrees to various internal meat temperatures. 145, and then I'm going to try 165, and then I'm going to cook it sort of like a brisket, because it's not that different of a cut of meat from a brisket. I'm going to try it to 195 and sort of see if I can't get it to tenderize like a brisket. Tri-tip is pretty much a cut of meat from down there by the sirloin steaks, and as you can see, it's a triangle in shape. That's why they call it a tri-tip, or some people call it a triangle steak or a Santa Maria steak, or some people even call it a sirloin roast, I believe. So basically I'm going to just put my rub on it. No marinade. There's no need to marinate these things. These don't have much of a fat cap on the back, so I'm not going to trim the fat off. If you do have a fat cap on it, you might want to trim that down a little bit. Just leave a little bit on there. This is a popular meat cut out on the West Coast. It's actually hard to find on the East Coast or off of the West Coast. But if you ask your butcher, they can more than likely get it for you. I'm going to be using our Southwest rub. It's good on everything. You can get it at the web address below. And basically I'll be grilling this to an internal meat temperature of 145. Now that's just because I prefer it to 145. That's sort of medium rare. If you want it rare, a lot of people cook tri-tip rare. So if you want it rare, maybe take it off at 130. As you let it rest for 15 minutes, it'll rise in temperature to 135, 140. So if you want it, even if you want a medium rare, you might want to take it off at 140, because it's always going to rise in temperature as the outside surface heat penetrates to the inside. Alright, just give it a good coating of this delicious Southwest rub. By the way, there's some good teams winning on the competition barbecue circuit with this stuff. It's been a real hit since I came out with it a few months ago. One good team, I'm not going to say who they are because they might not want me to reveal their secrets, but there's one good team just won a grand this past weekend. Get it on the sides. If your tri-tip comes with more of a point than this, you might want to like fold that point down like that and tie it up. That way it'll cook more evenly. But this one's got more of a point, as you can see. Just tie it back like that, maybe. I'm not going to worry about it today. Okay, I'm going to get my Char-Broil Silver going now. It's just a simple $150 smoker you can get down at Home Depot. And I have a Barbecue Guru hooked up to it to keep the temperature. Keep the temperature steady in there. Always build your fire on a grate, an elevated grate, so the air can get up underneath it. I always tell people to open the smokestack vent all the way and control your fire with the vents on your firebox. Open the vent for more heat, close the vent for less heat. And as your fire burns down, just at about 5 to 10 briquettes at a time. You don't want to smother your fire. Your fire should be a light blue, almost invisible color, as opposed to a white billowing smoke. And you can throw some flavor wood on as you need it. You're going to add charcoal briquettes about every, I'd say about 10, maybe 5 to 50, you know, anywhere from 5 briquettes to 15 briquettes at a time every 30 minutes, depending on how big your smoker is and how much heat you need. Something like this little old smoker, you can get away with 5 to 10. So just try to keep an eye on that. My pit temperature's already over 100. And I just put the coals on. It'll warm up no time at all. While that's warming up, I'm gonna throw this on the hot grill over here, and we're gonna grill this one up. I'm going to be using tongs today to pick up my meat and flip it. You don't want to be poking your meat with forks or whatever. It'll let the juices out. And I'll be using these barbecue thermometers on a wire probe, probe. You can get these in my barbecue store too. Real simple. You get these cheap ones for, these are actually what I use at contests because they're so simple to use as opposed to something like a ET73 or ET732. They're real nice thermometers, but you gotta read the manual and learn how to use them. Make sure the alarms go. Like at my last contest, the damn alarm didn't go off, and my meat, one of my butts got way up to about 210 degrees, way overcooked and mushy. I was using the ET732. If I had been using one of these little old simple things, you just press the up arrow for your desired temperature, and when it gets to your desired temperature, the alarm goes off. So I like to use these at the barbecue contest if I can. I want to go ahead and get these on. I'll just stick this in the thickest part of the meat. So what I've just done is set my alarms to go off at 195, 140, and 160. So that'll test out the 3 different internal meat temperatures. One like a brisket. I always cook my briskets to 195, and then I start testing for doneness by inserting a probe into the brisket flat across the grain, and if it slides in like a hot knife through butter, then it's done. So I'm gonna cook one of these like that and see what happens. My grilled tri-tip is over there grilling away. A lot of people say don't turn your meat but once. I'm not a believer in all that. Sometimes it gets too charred on one side if you do that, especially with a thicker cut of meat like this. So I will probably turn this, 2 times. So each side will get about, I'd say about 7 minutes of cooking. Well, maybe that's turning it 3 times, I don't know. Just make sure you cook one side for about 7 minutes, then the other side about 7 minutes, then flip it back to the first side for about 7 minutes, and then the last side for about 7 minutes. And somewhere in the middle of there, we'll check the internal meat temperature with the instant read thermometer. Okay, this has been grilling for about 7 minutes, so I'm going to give it a flip. As you can see, it's not burnt, but nice, and got some nice caramelization going on there. What I'm going to do also is throw in a chunk or 2 of mesquite. Give it a little bit extra flavor. And I'm also going to do that on my smoker every about 30 minutes or 15 minutes. This smoke on the smoker isn't going to take too long. 145 internal meat temperature will probably take 2 hours, 2.5 hours. The other 2 might take 3, maybe 5 hours, so 195. I'm not sure, but I'll keep an eye on it. So just throw smoke wood on about every 30 minutes. Okay, this tri-tip has been grilling for about 30 minutes now. That's 7 minutes on each side twice. So cooked it on the first side 7 minutes, flipped it, another 7 minutes, flipped it back on the first side 7 minutes, and then back on the second side for 7 minutes. And the temperature is right around 140. Which is just about perfect, so I'm going to pull it off and let it rest for 10 or 15 minutes before cutting it. Ooh, yeah, looks good. You also want to get those sides charred, caramelized. You can do like that, cook it like that for a while. Get those sides caramelized also if you want to. This is ready to take off for now. Okay, it's time to taste test my first experiment here. This is the grilled one, of course. As you can sort of see here, the grain, there's a grain of this meat which runs this way, and you want to cut against the grain. Like that. Nice and juicy. We'll see how it tastes and how tender it is. Mmm. I guess it's pretty tender. It's not as tender as a steak would be. It's actually pretty chewy this way. It's got lots of flavor. A lot of people like this cut of meat. They think it's got the most flavor of any cut of beef. I've never had it before, but it does taste pretty good. This grilled tri-tip is a little bit too chewy for me. Of course, it's fine if you cut it something like this. You have to cut thin. I'd say pencil thick or thinner. If the tenderness is okay with you, you can cut it into like 1-inch steaks like this one. And serve it up like that. I'm going to take another bite of this one. It's not bad. Tastes good and everything. Juicy. Let me get a little bit more rare piece. See how that works. That one's a little bit pink right there. It's not bad. It's just a little bit on the chewy side. It's I mean, it's not real chewy. It's just not melt in your mouth tender. So I would give this grilled tri-tip maybe a B- or something like that. We'll see how the smoked ones turn out in a minute. Okay, it's been about 2 hours. As you can hear from the beeping back here, one of my tri-tips is at 140 degrees. So I'm going to take that off. This one right here. I'll let that rest for about 15 minutes. That's my barbecue guru going off now. With a smoker like this, you're going to have a hot spot on the left side by the firebox. So this tri-tip over here was getting more heat, so I'm going to do a little rotating. Move this back here. I'm going to move this one up here. And I'm going to add more charcoal at this time. Don't want to add too much, remember, about 10 or 15 briquettes. This one's at 142, and this one over here is at 155 already. That was the one that was near the hot spot, and I rotated them. So 15 minutes, we'll come back and taste test this one. Okay, this is taste test number 2. This is a smoked tri-tip. We smoked it at 250 degrees to an internal meat temperature of 140 degrees. While it's resting, it probably came up to 145. And we're going to cut it against the grain. The grain's running this way. And you can also cut slices about 1-inch thick steaks like that if you want to. Let's see how it goes. Not too bad. Got a lot more smoke flavor, but tenderness is still a little bit chewy. I don't think it's quite as bad as the one that was grilled, but it's still a little bit on the chewy side. I gave the grilled one a B-. I think I'm going to give this one a B, just because it's got a little bit more smoky flavor, but the tenderness and the chewiness, rubberiness is about the same as the grilled one. And that's to be expected, because they were both cooked to the same internal meat temperature. So the grilled one is B-. This one's a B. Still not fantastic, but it's not a bad. It's very flavorful. It's a great cut of beef, and you know, you can eat this all day long. There ain't nothing wrong with it. It's just not as tender as a filet mignon or something like that, or even a ribeye. So, okay, this is taste test number 3. This tri-tip was smoked to an internal meat temperature of 160, and while it was sitting here, it probably came up to about 165. So let's see how this one tastes. Still real juicy. This one's getting tougher. It's still nice and juicy, but it's definitely tough. I'll score this one about a C. I think the first one was a B-, and the second one was a B. I'd say this one was a C or C+. It's not bad, but it's good eating, but it's just a little tough. So we'll see how the one that I cooked to 195 does, and take it from there. I'm gonna use this skewer or a thermometer to test whether or not it's done. I'm just going to insert it across the grain and see if it slides in easily. Still a little tough, so I'm going to take it to 205 and see how it is at 205. That's the way I do a brisket usually. If it ain't done at 195, I usually take it to 205. So we'll check back in about 15-30 minutes. Okay, this is the last tri-tip. I took this one to 205 internal meat temperature, and we're going to do a taste test on this right now after letting it rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. Definitely got more bark on it than the other three. It's a little crumbly actually, right there, as you can see. Still pretty moist. Nice smoke ring. Believe it or not, I actually prefer this one. I'm going to give this one a solid maybe B+. It may just be my taste though. It's a little bit drier than the other ones, but it's more tender, more melt in your mouth. You know, it's just what I prefer. It's not quite as moist, but more tender than the other ones. I just like it like this. They were all good though, so it just depends on what you like. I'd prefer the smoked tri-tips over the grilled one though. The smoked one to 140 degrees was pretty good, and this one was pretty good, so those would probably be my top two choices. But they were all good, so maybe give it a try.